Hello everybody, my name is Simone Duvall and today we're here to talk about the short story Mama's Bank Account. This short story, this is part 2 of the 3 lessons about Mama's bank account. So if you have done all the work in part 1, then you are ready to start part 2. This is a story for 3 points literature. So what do you need for this lesson? You need a pen and a pencil, you need a notebook, and you need an electronic dictionary or a regular dictionary. It's a good idea to have a dictionary next to you so that if there are words that you don't know, you can look them up. So students, let me ask you, can you follow and understand the rest of the story, Mama's Bank Account? If you have learnt it with your teacher, then you may be able to say that I can follow and understand the story, Mama's Bank Account. But if you haven't learnt it with your teacher yet, or you haven't read it with your teacher yet, then this is a great chance for you to read it. If you have, you can always review, and that helps as well. The second thing, students, can you say that you can understand and use comparing words that you can compare one to the other? If you can, then you can also review, and if you can't, then at the end of the lesson, I hope that you will say that you can understand comparing words. Can you express an opinion about telling the truth? If you can, wonderful. But if you can't, that's also fine, because this lesson we're going to learn lots of words to help you be able to express an opinion about telling the truth. And so at the end of this lesson, part 2, you will say, I can express my opinion about telling the truth. So just to remind you what we did in part 1. We learned some very important words like bank account and bills and accounts. We talked about household bills and accounts. We also learned about the background, a little bit of background about the short story. We learned about Catherine Forbes, who wrote the story, and we also learned that this story was a book, and then it was a television show, and then it was the short story that you're reading. We also read the first part of the story, and we learned some new words. You should have those new words next to you now, and you should add the 1 or 2 new words that we are going to learn this lesson. You should add them to your table of new words. Remember, there are blue words and there are red words. So let's start. So I also want to remind you, let's try and think. Do you remember what happened at the beginning of the story? If you do, then I want you to match the one side with the other side, the 1 numbers with the A numbers. Can you do that? And then you will see the beginning of the story that we have already read. So let's have a look. Every Saturday night, the family. How can you continue this part of the sentence? Go through each sentence, the red sentences, and see if you can match this part of the sentence to the other part of the sentence. So something happened every Saturday night. Do you remember what happened every Saturday night? Then Mama made a pile of coins for. Who did she make the pile of coins for? The family used the little bank to. Do you remember what she used the little bank for, to? The family never needed to. Maybe because of the little bank. What didn't they need to do? The Jensens. These sentences are all the first part of the story, and it's a good way to see if you remember the first part of the story. So now, students, while I'm waiting, I want you to try quickly to match A with B. If you have time, you can copy the sentence A and whatever the column, the second column, or you can just write 1C, 1B, whatever fits, okay? So let's have a look at the answers. Did you get the answers right? If you did, now's the time to maybe write the sentences together and read them as one sentence. And there are things also that can help you know how to match the sentences. Every Saturday night, the family counted out their money. Mama made a pile of coins for each thing they needed to pay for. The family used the little bank to pay for surprising expenses. All of these words you know, students. The family never needed to take money out of the bank account. Remember, because they had the little bank. The Jensens had to leave their house. And that was how we ended the first part of the story in lesson 1. So we are going to now continue from when the Jensens had to leave their house. And remember that Mrs. Jensen was crying. She had tears in her eyes when she saw her furniture taken out of the house. And why? Because they couldn't pay their rent. Do you remember that part of the story? And that's how we finished in the first lesson, and now we are going to keep reading. And here you can check yourselves again to see, did you match the right part? And this is also the order of the beginning of the story. First, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. Do you remember that is what we talked about in the first lesson, how to order the beginning of the story so we can see what happened first and then what happened at the end. So let's continue now reading the story. I held on to Christine's hand tightly. We have a bank account, she reassured me calmly, and suddenly I could breathe again. When Nels wanted to go to high school, Mama said, "Is good," and Papa nodded approvingly. It will cost a little money, said Nels. Eagerly, we brought chairs and sat around the table. I took down the colourfully painted box that Aunt Sigrid had sent us from Norway and put it carefully in front of Mama. Can you guess when this happened? Do you remember when the family sat down and counted out the money? If you said on Saturday night, you were right. You remembered the first part of the story. Every Saturday night, the family would sit together and count out the money. So now tell me, is this sentence true or false? Nels wanted to continue going to school. Probably Nels went to elementary school, and at the end of elementary school, some students went to high school and some students stopped and went to work. So Nels wants to go to high school. Is this true or false? And where can you see this in the story? Right, when Nels wanted to go to high school, so this sentence, he wanted to continue going to school, that is true. Good. If you got that right, then you understood this part of the story. This was the little bank. The little bank was used for sudden emergencies, such as the time Christine broke her arm and had to be taken to the doctor, or when Dagmar got sick and Papa had to go to the drugstore for medicine. Nels had it all written out neatly. So much for car fare, for clothes, for notebooks and supplies. They're things that he needed. Mama looked at the figures, the numbers for a long time. Then she counted out the money in the little bank. There was not enough. What emergencies, this is a blue word, was the little bank used for? So have a look at this part of the story and think which emergencies the little bank, the money in the little bank was used for, and write a list. There's more than one, and it doesn't say just give one. It says give all of the emergency things that the bank was used for. Have you found them? Did you write them? Let's see if you found all of the emergencies that the little bank was used for. Christine broke her arm and had to be taken to the doctor. That costs money. Dagmar got sick and Papa had to go to the drugstore for medicine. So there are two things here that the little bank was used for. And we know that Nels also needed money for high school. So that's another, but that's not such a sudden emergency. So now what do you think will happen? The family don't have enough money. What are they going to do? Are they going to go to the bank, to Mama's bank account at the big bank? Or will they manage? Will they not need to go? Let's think. Let's remember. Let's read. We do not, she reminded us gently, want to have to go to the bank. We all shook our heads. I will work in Dylan's grocery after school, Nels volunteered. Mama gave him a bright smile and carefully wrote down a sum and added and subtracted. Papa did it in his head. He was very quick in arithmetic. Arithmetic is mathematics. Is it not enough? Is not enough, he said. Then he took his pipe out of his mouth and looked at it for a long time. I give up tobacco, he said suddenly. So why did Mama say we don't have to go down to the bank? Why did she say that, do you think? She said we don't want to go to the bank. Why do you think she said we don't want to go to the bank? And what do you think the family did so that they don't have to go to the bank? Right. Mama wanted her children to feel secure, to feel safe. This is one of the words. We learned the word last lesson, insecure. Insecure is not secure. So when Mama said we don't want to go to the bank, she was saying to her children, don't worry, we will manage. And what did her children and Papa do? They said we will help save money and get more money. And this was a good way that they didn't have to go to the bank. Mama reached across the table and touched Papa's sleeve, but she didn't say anything, just wrote down another number, another figure. I will look after the Elvington children every Friday night, I said. Christine can help me. Is good, said Mama. We all felt very good. We had passed another milestone without having to go downtown and draw money out of Mama's bank account. The little bank was enough for now. Why did everyone in the family feel good, do you think? Why? Is it because that Katrine and Christine said they would go and look after the Elvington children? What do you think? Can you find the answer in the text? Maybe it's not there. Have a look and see if you can find the answer. So it's about not having to go to the bank. And remember, we read 2 slides ago about Mama wanting to let her children feel secure and safe. And so when the children didn't have to go to the bank, that means that they have enough money and they can manage, and the bank account they don't have to touch, they don't have to go, and they can save the money in the bank account. Only if they really need the bank account, then they will go to the bank account. So this was another way that the children and the family could feel good about having enough money to do what they needed to do. So many things I remember. Do you remember? In the first lesson, we talked a lot about how Katrine remembered. So now she's talking about other things that she remembered. So many things I remember came out of the little bank that year. Christine's costume for the school play, Dagmar's operation, my Girl Scout uniform, and always in the background was the comforting knowledge that we still had the bank to depend on. So again, this was another way to feel secure. What was the little bank used for that Katrine remembers? Can you see that there? Christine's costume, Dagmar's operation, my Girl Scout uniform. Why? And have a look how I wrote these sentences. Can you see how I wrote these sentences? Two of these sentences have a comma and an S. Why do they have a comma and an S? Does that mean a lot? That there's a lot of things, a lot of Christines, a lot of Dagmars, a lot of Katrines? No, it doesn't. It means that the object, the costume, the operation, and the Girl Scout uniform, they belong to the people with the comma S. So when we use comma S, that's what we have to know, or when we see it, it's talking about something that belongs to the person. During the strike, when Papa didn't work, Mama helped out at Krupa's bakery for a big sack of only slightly old bread and coffee cake. Papa washed bottles at the Castro Creamery every night, and they gave him some fresh milk and all the sour milk he could carry. Mama made fine cheese out of it. So here we see that there was a strike. Do you know what a strike is? Right. A strike is when people don't work. And the reason they don't work is because they want to say that they're not happy with the work or with the conditions of their work. And you can see the people striking and holding up signs. I'm sure you also know that the teachers strike sometimes. And the teachers strike because they're saying that they think things are unfair, like having 40 students in a classroom. Teachers think that it's the only way to get sometimes help is to make a statement and to say, we are on strike. We are not working and we want you to help us. So during the strike, what happened? Papa wasn't working. So did they have money in Papa's envelope? No, they didn't have money. What did they do? Did they go to the bank? Let's have a look. Papa didn't go to work. Papa didn't. Mama went too because she wanted to. Katrine's family was able to get through the difficult time. So what happened during the strike? Right, Papa didn't go to work. He didn't get paid, didn't get money. So Mama went to work because she wanted to help out. And so Katrine's family didn't have to go to the bank. So now students, we're going to have a break. You can read the parts again that you want to. And after the break, we are going to keep reading the story and hopefully we will finish the whole story after the break. Okay, goodbye. Okay, so before the break, we kept reading the story from the first part, and now, students, let's see what happens next. Do you remember that Papa was on strike and that he didn't have money because he wasn't getting paid? So what did then what happened to the family? They got through the strike without a problem. Now what happens? The day Papa went back to work, I saw Mama stand a little straighter. She looked around at us proudly. "Is good," she smiled. "See, we did not have to go to the bank." That was 20 years ago. Last year, I sold my first story. When the check came, I hurried over to Mama's and put the long green slip of paper in her lap. "For you," I said, "to put in your bank account." And I noticed for the first time how old Mama and Papa looked. Papa seemed shorter now, and Mama's golden hair was now filled with grey. So can you tell me, students, did Katrine become a writer? And how do you know if this is true or false? Look in the story, in this part of the story, and see where you can find the answer to this question, whether Katrine did become a writer or not. You're right, students. If you said it's in the line, "Last year I sold my first story," from that, students, we can see that she wrote her first story and she sold it. So yes, she became a writer. This is true. And remember what we said at the beginning, that this story, or Katrine, could be Catherine Forbes, the writer of the story. So Katrine became a writer in the story, and Catherine Forbes is a writer. That is another thing that we can see that helps us understand that Catherine and Katrine have many similarities. "Is good," she said, and her eyes were proud. We're talking about Mama. "Tomorrow," I told her, "you must take it down to the bank." "You will go with me, Katrine." "That won't be necessary, Mama. See, I've written my name on the back of the check. Just hand it to the teller. He'll deposit it in your account." Mama looked at me. "Is no account," she said. "In all my life, I never been inside a bank." And when I couldn't answer, Mama said seriously, "Is not good for little ones to be afraid, to feel insecure." True or false? The family had a bank account in the bank. This is the end of the story. Do we know if Mama had a bank account in the bank or not? Have a look in the lines of this part of the story and tell me, students. Mama looked at me. "Is no account," she said. "In all my life, I never been inside a bank." So no, false. The family did not have a bank account in a bank. It's true that they didn't have an account. It's false that they did have an account. And why do you think Mama said, and we said this a few times, why did Mama say that she did have a bank account? She answers here. She says, because she didn't want her children to feel afraid or insecure. Her children felt good and safe knowing that there was a bank account. And that helped the family feel safe and secure. So that's actually a very good thing that Mama did. The children never felt like the Jensens or never felt like they would be like the Jensens. That's very important for children, to feel safe and secure. and to let their parents make them feel safe and secure. So now, students, there are things in this story that we can compare. What does it mean to compare? To compare means to talk about how things are similar. They are the same. Or to talk about things that are different from or different to. Let's think of an example of something that we can compare. Can you think of a good example of things that you like to compare all the time? I'm sure you can think of a good example. I thought of an example. My children like to compare mobile phones to their friends. This one has an iPhone and this one has a Samsung, and they like to talk about how the phones are similar, that they are the same, and how they are different. So I'm sure, students, you can all tell me. I don't really know the difference, but you can tell me how they are different and how they are the same. So if we have a look, what I heard was that the cameras are similar on the iPhone and the Samsung. So that is a similarity. That makes them the same. But they are different from each other. There is a difference between the iPhone and the Samsung. The size of the screen is different. One screen is bigger than the other screen. And apparently they work on they work differently. One is on iOS and another one uses Android. And so these things are not so important to me, but for many of you it is very important when you choose a phone to buy, a mobile phone. You want to choose a phone and you think about the similarities and the differences between the phone, and then you decide based on that which phone you want. Some of you will say, I don't care about the camera, or I do care about the camera. So maybe I'll take another phone. Okay, so to think about the similarities and differences, we do that all the time. But I want you to remember these important words: similar, different, same. Okay? The iPhone is different from the Samsung. The iPhone is similar to the Samsung phone. They both have a similar camera. These words you need, and they are very, very important to you. You need to understand them. You need to know them. You need to use them. Please write them in your notebook. Look up the meaning of the word if you don't know, but I'm sure you all know the meaning. And remember to use these words as much as you can. Of course, only when it's suitable. So what was different when Katrine gave the cheque to Mama at the end of the story? What was different? Let's have a look. That was 20 years ago. For you, I said, to put in your bank account. And I noticed for the first time how old Mama and Papa looked. Papa seemed shorter now, and Mama's golden hair was now filled with grey. So there are things that are different before 20 years ago and now when Katrine goes to visit her parents. So let's have a look. What was different? Mama had blonde hair 20 years ago, and now Mama has, what colour is Mama's hair? Is it blonde? Mama and Papa were younger 20 years ago, and now Mama and Papa. Katrine thought her family had a bank account 20 years ago. Now Katrine thinks her family has a bank account. Does she still think that? She did when she went to her mother. And then all of a sudden she understood that her family doesn't have a bank account. Mama counted the money. Katrine gives. What does Katrine give her mother? Papa was 20 years ago, and Papa is now. Can you see that the one column is in the past tense? Had, were, thought, counted, was. And the other column should be in the present tense. Has, thinks, gives, is. These are all present words. So can you complete now the sentence? And in a moment, I'm going to check you. Is that what you wrote? I hope so. Mama has some grey hair. She doesn't have blonde hair anymore. Her mama and papa are older. Katrine believes her family has a bank account, right? That's what she believed. She thinks. Katrine gives money to her mama, and Papa was taller, but now he is shorter. Is there something that we can see in some of these words in red? Have a look. Taller, shorter, older. What is special about these words? Can you see something special about these words? Right. Let me just go back. What is special about these words is they're talking about more. Papa was taller than he was before. Papa is shorter than he was before. Okay? So sometimes when we want to talk about more, we put ER on the end of the word. So now, students, let's play a game. But before we play a game, I've given you a picture of something. Do you know what this is a picture of? If you said this is a picture of the little bank, then you would be correct. It is the colourful painted box that they used for the little bank. So we're going to play a game now, and we call this game 2 truths and 1 untruth. An untruth is to say something that is not true. So you're going to have to think of 2 untruths and 1 truth. But before the opposite, 2 truths and 1 untruth. Do you notice the not truth? Okay, so let's play the first one. I'll play the first one with you, and then the second one you can make up yourselves. This is the colourfully painted box that Papa gave Mama this box. This box is from Aunt Sigrid. This box was the little bank. So there are 2 truths and 1 untruth. Can you guess what is the truth and what is the untruth? I'm waiting. Can you guess? Let's see if you got it right. Right, Papa didn't give Mama this box. Aunt Sigrid did, from Norway. And that is in the story. So I have 2 truths and 1 untruth. I want you now to play this game with your friends. I want you to choose a character in the story or an event in the story and write or say 2 truths and 1 untruth, and ask your friend to guess what is the untruth. For example, you could choose Mama or Katrine. Again, I wrote Kirsten and her name is Katrine, sorry. You could talk about the strike, 2 truths and an untruth. After you've done this with the story and your friend has guessed, you can play this game about anything. You can write 2 truths about yourself and 1 untruth, and then somebody has to guess what is the untruth. It's a really fun game to play, but you must play it in English, not in Hebrew. So let's have a look. Mama, at the end of the story, we learn that Mama told an untruth. Do you remember what Mama's untruth was? Mama said, what did Mama say that was an untruth? And why did Mama say this untruth? Mama said this because she wanted. Is it bad or good that Mama said an untruth? What do you think? This is your opinion. Do you think it is bad or good that Mama said this? Because. Explain. So I want you now in your notebooks to write the answer to these sentences. Can you write the answer, students? I'm sure you can. Write the answer and let's check your answers and see if you wrote the same answers as I did. Mama said that she has a bank account in the bank. That we learnt was an untruth. Mama didn't have a bank account. Mama said this because she wanted the children to feel secure and safe and good. And do you think it is bad or good? So we could say that it's bad because a mother shouldn't tell her children untruths. Or we could say that it's good because the children felt secure and safe. And also sometimes children, you know this, sometimes students, you know this, that sometimes people need to tell untruths. And in fact, we all often say things that are not true. So now, students, for the last part of the lesson, I want you to speak up in English, and I want you, with all of the words that you have learnt and all of the things that we have talked about, I want you to answer this question. Is it wrong to say an untruth? Why or why not? So what do? The first thing you do is you think in your mother tongue, in Hebrew or in Arabic. What do you want to say? If you think it is wrong to say an untruth, then you are right. It's wrong. No, I think it's wrong to say. Or yes, I think it's wrong. Or you will say, no, you don't think it's wrong. And then you can write ideas. Then try and think about all the words that we have learnt and write in English those words. And you really should write down in words what you want to say so that it will be easier for you to say it. And if there's a word that you don't know, look it up in the dictionary and write it down. So here I have some answers. I couldn't decide whether I think it's wrong or it's not wrong. So I wrote myself a few things in English. Yes, it is wrong to say an untruth. Why? Because you should always tell the truth. If you don't tell the truth, you will not know the difference between a truth and an untruth. You will get so used to saying untruths that you won't know the difference between an untruth and a truth. You don't want people to not tell you the truth, so you shouldn't tell others untruths. Do you think Katrine was upset with Mama because she told her an untruth? We don't know if Katrine was upset with Mama. She was definitely shocked. But do we know if she was upset? We don't. What do you think? Do you think she was upset with Mama? Then we can say no. Sometimes you can't tell the truth because it will hurt someone. Maybe in this case it would hurt Katrine. Everyone says untruth, so it's okay. So now I want you to decide which one and then give examples from your life to explain your opinion. So now, students, can you say that you can follow and understand the story Mama's Bank Account? I think you all can. We finished the whole story. Can you say, I can understand and use comparing words? I think you can. Can you say that you can express an opinion about telling the truth? I think you can. So well done, students. I look forward to seeing you in part 3 of the lesson, Mama's Bank Account. Goodbye.